Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this panel discussion titled Reinforcing the Links, Securing Global Energy Supply Chains, moderated by Neil Pillai, international moderator and journalist. Our panelists are Robert M. Lee, CEO and co-founder, Argus Incorporation, Saeed AlSaeed, Chief Executive Officer, Sabrani, Chase Carpenter, Chief Security Officer, Honeywell.
Assalamu alaikum, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. It's so good to be with you. We're going to be talking about securing energy supply chains. You have been here this morning, an excellent interview with Mr. AlSaeed from with John Defterios, talking about how important it is that we make sure that cybersecurity is deeply embedded in operational technology right across the Aramco supply. We're going to take that discussion further. So, who should we start with? How about Chase Carpenter? So you're the Chief Security Officer for Honeywell. You're responsible for security within Honeywell, as well as making sure that all the products you supply, your customers, including Aramco, are super safe. So we're seeing an increasing merger between operations technology, OT, which used to be sealed off, if you like, with IT, which is bringing all sorts of new threats. What are you seeing particularly at the moment?
You know, that separation that we'll be able to rely on is so important. We're seeing such a massive increase in attacks in this space right now. In the first half alone, we saw a 148% increase in attacks on operational technology. And in the past, companies were able to rely, or organizations were able to rely on the fact that these environments were really isolated from the rest of the environment, the rest of the network. We've seen such a change in technology over the last 5 years, where now these systems require connectivity to the internet, to share data for troubleshooting. They allow contractors or vendors to be connected in remotely to perform maintenance. We have connectivity from OT systems into IT and enable new business scenarios. But with all that new connectivity comes this increased risk of threat. And what we're seeing right now is I think companies are starting to make that shift where they're starting to think about how we protect our OT environments. We can no longer rely purely on isolation, but there's room still to go. And I think that's probably the thing that we're seeing now is people starting to recognize the importance of new sets of security controls that are different than what we do in the IT space, but additive to protecting these environments.
Thanks very much for getting us going, Chase. Mr. Saeed, so Cyber is a subsidiary of Aramco, which is one of your clients in turn, but you also supply other companies, other industries. So you can give us an overview of energy and also what's going on elsewhere. So I want to ask you, how is it that we're able to create a situation in which the energy sector can take the front foot when it's got a multiplicity of different vendors, as we were just hearing?
Correct. So that's definitely, I would say, an important angle where, number one, the criticality of such kind of technologies, operation technologies that works on the plant of that creating the energy. Now, there is the system that we own, or they own the client, where they need to be looked at in terms of operation and also being into from design all the way until operations. At the same time, I mean, there is another important angle. The company or the energy companies rely on third parties and really be dependent on many, I would say, fronts on these, I would say, third parties to make sure they run their operations. So in this context, the clients need to take care of their own security systems, especially OT as highlighted, and where they need to make sure they are, protected in a way, especially with the open up and the new say, era of data analytics and AI and what have you, plus also looking at the supply chain all the way until the last of, I would say, companies, our service provider, to make sure that we are the whole ecosystem well protected in a way that protect any, I would say, make a sustainable business and avoid any such interruption, not necessarily due to your operations, but rather also to your suppliers as well.
Rob Lee, what are the particular risks that you're seeing at the moment that wouldn't have been evident, say, 10 years ago, when we didn't have this merger of different kinds of systems?
Yeah, it's the merger as well as the commonality now between systems. You used to not be able to really cause a lot of physical impact or disruption through cyber to a facility and then take that same knowledge set or capabilities and apply it to an oil and gas facility. The carbon cracker in Dammam, Saudi Arabia has in common with the wastewater treatment facility in Pittsburgh 20 years ago. Now it does. There's a lot of commonality in the software and the protocols and the communications. And so we're seeing a scalability of attacks, number one. So in 2021, there was the first malicious capability called Pipe Dream that was able to cause disruption and, if the environment allowed it, physical destruction on a cross-industry basis, going after water, going after unmanned aerial. It was just showing native functionality of these environments that could be disrupted. But now the biggest shift that I'm seeing that I'm worried about is we're seeing actors arm non-state actors with knowledge and capabilities. We always see that happen in IT security, of the transfer, proliferation of malicious capabilities and knowledge. This is the first time we're seeing it in the operations technology world, where the same actors, the same state governments that have taken down like electric power systems in Ukraine are arming hacktivist groups and cyber criminals with that same type of knowledge. That's where you go from low frequency, high consequence attacks to start having higher frequency, high consequence attacks.
I'm seeing you nodding there, Chase. Have you seen similar behaviors, malicious behaviors?
Absolutely, and on top of that, I think what we're seeing now is where bad actors used to focus on these environments as a place to hide. They could perpetrate an attack on the IT infrastructure later. We now see them, we've seen them move to using OT environments as a place where they can focus on ransomware because it's easy money. And if you take down an OT environment for healthcare, for manufacturing, for critical infrastructure, any of those are things that people feel very immediately, and that's something they're willing to pay to get back up. But now we're seeing them actually take the step further, as Rob mentioned, which is focusing on that critical infrastructure, not as just purely a financial motive, but as one to cause mass disruption. And that's really I think this whole industry has moved and needs to be focused on now.
So if you're seeing a different kind of bad act with tools that can be multiplied across different sectors, and therefore there's a sort of systemic risk there, what should industries like the oil and gas supply industry be doing to come together in the face of this? Are there ways in which across the ecosystem you can work together? For instance, I discovered just before we started this discussion that the three of these gentlemen work together in different ways, serving Aramco. So can I put that question to you first, Mr. AlSaeed?
Sure. So basically, I mean, you are right. Definitely, today at Sebrani, we are into leading, I would say, among other strategic partners, the OT cybersecurity, because as highlighted, the OT cybersecurity by gentlemen here, the cyber attacks against OT is really evolving a lot and becoming today, which was not the case before. And therefore, companies like Sebrani will put our hands together along with such partners to really number one, educate our clients how important it is to secure OT cybersecurity, the OT that's in a new, I would say, never done before. Number one. Number two, also help put this together because OT by design is kind of you don't play along with what you do in the traditional IT, so it does have its own checks and balance that you need to make sure that you don't change a lot. Otherwise, things will really easily go wrong and probably impact the protection or maybe people, what have you. So at Sebrani, we are putting our, I would say, expertise along with our partners to see how can we evolve our clients that who really needs to protect their systems, especially with the era of AI, where they need to connect their systems that become a bit more, I would say, exposed to risk that was never there before. Therefore, it goes into a journey by number one, making sure, especially systems that secure by design, putting them. Number two, also making sure that all the multi-layer of controls and protection that if one layer, the other one should cover, etc. Number two, also getting them ready to deal with scenarios where the attack could happen to their OT environment and what's there, because the company, they will never have this in mind. As I mentioned, this is not used to be not the norm. Now they have plans in place to make sure that they get the incident response, and even to make sure they have the business continuity and the recovery. And I think we heard in the news in multiple ways, for example, one of the plants in UK, manufacturing of cars, they really lost their production capacity to cyber attack.
For one already.
Exactly. And, you know, it took them 1 month. They're just trying to come back. They're having a difficult time to come back.
Absolutely.
They never knew this could happen, but it's reality that we need to have our plans, and typically when you get a disaster, unless you have a plan already written and tested, it will take you ages to, you know, put things to your mind to on how to recover your production.
Thanks very much, Saeed. So Chase Carpenter, we just heard Saeed mentioning, and it's important to put in the security principles, you know, by design, from the get-go. And I was thinking, how is that relevant to a lot of the equipment, the control systems you're supplying, are designed to last for decades. A lot of your products were sold decades ago, therefore, right? So you're retrofitting and retro-patching the security. How does that work? How do you make sure that that works when the OT infrastructure is so much older than the IT that's being used almost daily?
Yeah, I think there's a couple things that we have to always consider. First is that we have to think about the hardware. We know the hardware is not going to change very often, so we need to make sure that we're really building good security principles in as we're building the hardware. Then we do the same with software on top of that. We hope that software can normally be refreshed more often than the hardware for sure. But environments that are so mission critical, even we see that sometimes that doesn't happen as often as we'd like. And that's where we have to think about these defense in depth approach and layers of defenses, where we think about other controls that we can put in the environment that can
help. What does that mean, defense in depth?
So if you look at attackers, they're like water running through cracks, and they will look for every way they can get in. And if we can put more barriers up along the way, that every time the attacker's trying to get into the environment, we can do something that slows them down, makes them more noisy, gives them a chance to react or to identify that they're there, that gives us a chance to win. So that's what we think about from defense in depth, is how do we think about layers at all these different levels, at the network, whether it's at the identity level, whether it's at the software, whether it's at the hardware level. We have to think about security in the entire stack up and down.
So lots of new tools are having to be developed in the face of new threats. Do we need to take a step back and just rethink our whole approach to OT security, not just as a technical challenge, but almost like a strategic issue, do you think, Rob?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the failure that a lot of people make when they first look at it is they have an IT security playbook. They've done very well across their career implementing the same security controls they did in other environments. But when you look at operations, you just copy and paste it in. And when you think about this, going back actually to the comment that you made for Chase about thinking about long-term, decades in terms of doing this, you also have to think about long-term partnership with this. And so, you know, if you look even just from my firm's perspective, and I think in the theme of this conference, which is really about showing not just Saudi Arabia, but also how that can help the world and actually share these lessons learned. Like the only reason my company here is a decade ago, Dr. Saad and Saeed was like, hey, I want you to come. And you're not going to make any money for a long time, but here's our shared values and our views and where we're going in the future. So I want us to come. Then Aramco, as a leader in their community, said, well, we want to do this with you, which enabled the Cyberani partnership. When deploying into Aramco, then enabled us to work with Honeywell. And leader start taking leader companies, them to work together and achieving outcomes that could scale to a lot of other companies that would never otherwise have that opportunity.
And if that's actually OT, happening?
Yeah,
but it's moving out of the Aramco system, as it were?
Absolutely. Well, when you look about, things I like about the Saudi community in general is the long-term vision, taking care of everybody and trying to make sure that not just Aramco gets served, but how do we make sure all of these companies take lessons learned and scale it to everybody as a societal discussion. That's a very OT mindset, but applied to security, it's very effective.
Okay, so scalability, important. Bringing partners together so that you can scale solutions. Because the bad actors are certainly scaling things up, said from one sector to another. Good point. Should we talk a little bit about AI and how that's changing the threats and the defense capabilities? Yes? Sides. Saeed, let's start.
Yeah, so I mean, definitely today AI is a main player in the technology, and really it have changed a lot of, I would say, old assumptions. For example, today, I mean, it takes much shorter time for attackers to or exploit a vulnerability, be it in the IT side, and AI just help them. It used to take them weeks, now it probably takes them probably days or even hours. Now, I think AI supporting the attack side, definitely it needs to be used for the defense side. And the good news already they out there in the market, multiple technologies, I think even Dragos and plus or a lot of the and AI, machine learning to basically scale up point our defense in terms it will go and do the initial triage and leave the, I would say, do the hefty lift in the beginning and probably pass it to the human
So
behind
you've explained in theory, but in practice, have you actually been able to deploy?
Absolutely.
So
Yes,
can you give us an example?
Yes, in our, for example, our 24/7 monitoring system, AI will do the initial, I would say, investigation, then pass it on to the experts on the back seat to verify. Because at the end of the day, cybersecurity, there's always a chance
So
of
it's
mistakes.
speeding up the detection.
Yeah, so to do all the initial investigation, then pass it on to the in the back seat to make sure that things are right order. So, but to your point, you cannot, in fact, function at scale today without AI.
Interesting. So Saeed's just been telling us about deploying AI tools to speed up detection. But how about the risk that you might introduce foreseen vulnerabilities with the deployment of tools? What do you advise your clients, Chase, in terms of making sure that they've bolted the stable door?
I've got a pretty unique role at Honeywell. So I have cybersecurity, I have product security, I have physical security. So I have to think about AI from a bunch of different perspectives. I've got to think about how we're defending ourselves against attacks from a cyber perspective. I've got to think how we're using AI in our products so that our customers can take advantage of that capability. Also got to think about how when we deploy AI solutions inside of Honeywell, that those are secure and they meet our requirements as well. What we've done, one of the things we've done is we've dedicated my penetration testing team, our security team, their whole job now is just around performing adversary type attacks against AI products. Both the things that we build to make sure that the products we're shipping out to our customers are secure and use AI in a responsible way, but also that make sure that the products we're buying from our vendors are being built with security in mind, and we can those against with those same principles to make sure that they're using AI in a secure way as well.
It sounds like a fun job.
Cool.
And what have they discovered? How often are they finding problems?
They find things all the time. And it's so easy for them to identify trends that we're seeing. They're actually using AI to test AI now.
Yeah.
So it's sort of multiplied capabilities. And one of the best things that we're doing is every time they find something, we're baking that back upstream in with our developers to make sure that they know to avoid making those same mistakes. We're taking them and working with our vendors to make sure that they understand things that we might have found in their products as well. They can make the whole ecosystem better.
So it's a really iterative process.
It's a very tight loop circle for sure.
Interesting, very interesting. Rob, do you want to add your thoughts on how we can use AI to better defend?
Yeah, look, I think it's going to be helpful to enable the analysts, but you got to start with a requirement. There's a lot of companies that are doing a lot of AI stuff out there, hoping that they're going to find value. You got to start with the requirement of what you're trying to do, and I think AI that assists the human ends up being some of the better workflows. But there's also the cautionary tale, especially for this region, where a lot of companies are pushing on AI. And as you get back to this discussion about operations technology, and you go back to some of the comments made in the beginning about, hey, we were segmented off, and now we're connecting up. Well, you can't have a data diode air gap strategy and an AI project being reasonably discussed at the board. doesn't go together. So you've got a lot of companies that depended on being away from the world and to be secure, and now they are massively opening up the doors. And if you're not taking that OT security journey ahead of that, which can take years to get right, you're going to be walking right into an adversary landscape where they're waiting for you to impact your operations environment.
Okay, so that's a note of caution.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the connectivity, it's the data rush, it's the, I want all of this magical data from my operations environment, but now you're not just taking on the risk of the AI models and the Internet of Things and the various devices itself, but you're also lowering the defenses at the same time that you're enhancing your attack surface. And that's a lot of risk that I don't think really understanding.
Okay, so we need to be careful. We need to not be too excited about the new tools and realize there's a lot that we have to learn as well. And possibly the bad actors are ahead of us in this. I'd like to ask the three of you what you are thinking about at the moment that you need to prepare for now, which will affect you possibly, all of us possibly, in 5 years' time. So this is a thought experiment. What should we be investing in doing now for the future? Chase Carpenter.
You know, a few years ago, everyone asked what things we should be thinking about, and AI was top of the list. And AI came fast and furious. I think we're all dealing with the impacts of that right now. When I think about what's next in our world, I have to think quantum computing. Quantum computing.
Okay.
And I know there's a couple other sessions over the next 2 days to talk about quantum and the impact of quantum as well. But the reality is that any time that we have something that's such a powerful technology that can help us from a security perspective, it can also help the adversaries. And the bad people are very excited to be able to use quantum to break current encryption, to get access to things that they might not have been able to get access to otherwise.
But quantum is still some way down the road. For ages, it's been 5 years away. So
it is.
At Honey, is it worth spending money today?
It is, because when if you look in the past, at any time we've had new changes around cryptography, it normally takes a company anywhere between 5 and 20 years to get ready for that change in technology. If we're 5 to 7 years away from quantum being a reality today, we're very close to being behind the 8 ball.
Okay.
We've got to start getting ready.
Today, says Chase Carpenter.
That's right.
Saeed, what would you be investing in today to deal with tomorrow?
Yeah, so at Sebrani, I would say primary goal today to keep our clients secure and safe from cybersecurity perspective. Now, and always we need to be ready for the. So typically when they deploy new technology or a new, they're gonna say, how can we help you at Sebrani? So always we'd like to be one step ahead of our clients and being ready to secure whatever they have. And typically we always, one of the things that we're seeing, for example, the exponential increase in cyber attacks in terms of quantity and even advancements. And so that's kind of 2 areas we cannot do conventional way. So that's why, as I mentioned to you, we need to employ AI in a way or another to help us to deal with that scale of attacks types, as well as also doing our way in a, this is number 1. Number 2, also as it comes into play and into more than typical today text and what have you, at action, then as we mentioned earlier here, AI secure itself, the engine, in terms of, for example, ensuring that the data is well protected, ensuring that the model well protected, so that, for example, a few months back I was in a Waymo in San Francisco. It's fully attacked vehicles, and just imagine if that AI is attacked. I mean, these vehicles could run over people, could hit the roads and the walls and what have you. So what I'm trying to say, as AI takes more control, autonomous vehicles, autonomous airplanes and what have you, the securing such kind of mode is when that becomes the real necessity. It's not we're looking at the future. So this is coming very soon that we need to be prepared.
So we need to be prepared for AI autonomous systems.
Correct.
And for that we need to prepare now. Thanks, sir.
And that's what we're trying to do at Sebrani.
Final word to you, Rob.
Yeah,
what keeps you up at night? Where would you put your money?
I've got 3 young kids, fourth one on the way, so what keeps me up at night is different. I'll say I'm a big fan, and what we focus on a lot at Dragos is understanding what the threats are actually doing, and then looking at the trend lines and trying to forecast a little bit ahead. That's where I talked about the scalability, the non-state actors entering the scene for the first time, being able to deal with cross-industry attacks. That's enough to deal with. I'm a big fan of the fundamentals. You know, a congressman asked me, I testified recently, and a congressman asked me, oh my gosh, what are we doing about quantum encryption in water systems? I was like, Congressman, we are pre-encryption at all. Like, we don't have to worry about that yet. Like, let's get a fire in front of it.
Let's sort out the fundamentals.
Let's get some fundamentals.
So what does the hygiene say to you?
Yeah, absolutely. Do the fundamentals and be able to deal with the knowns. And there's a lot of asset owners and operators that want to talk about the next threat that cannot really detect and deal with the threats from 10 years ago. And so we got to move that bar to a place that we do the knowns before we jump into the unknowns. And you'll find that if you do that and you do those fundamentals, it gives you a base to be able to be adaptive and flexible when some new thing comes out. But if you can't deal with malware that hit again 10, 15 years ago, you really shouldn't be talking about agentic AI malware in a serious conversation.
Okay, so focus on known knowns, and there are enough baddies out
to get
there
you started.
And
if you get through that, then by all means, go and be innovative and forward-leaning. But if you don't have a detection strategy, if you don't have logging, if you don't have firewalls, talking about AI as the savior is just not going to be realistic.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Excellent, ladies and gentlemen. 3 great tips for what to be investing in now. Get the fundamentals right. Basic hygiene. Deal with the problems we know we face. Make sure that we're ready for the era of autonomous AI-driven everything world so that it doesn't go crazy on us, and invest now for the quantum future, which is actually not so far. I hope you've enjoyed this discussion as much as I have. Shall we show our appreciation to our great panelists?